Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be continuing to talk about one of the biggest nonsense stories the right has blown up as of late. The story of the Somali fraud scandal in Minnesota. I don't buy any of it. Don't get me wrong, there was actual fraud in Minnesota within the Somali community involving businesses that were Somali-owned and receiving government payments as part of a program, but those instances of embezzlement were investigated and prosecuted because that's the process. Listen, I know that we are all very primed to believe that our government is run like a shit show, and that it would be completely believable that millions, hundreds of millions, maybe upwards of $1 billion of US taxpayer funds just disappeared as random Somalis embezzled the funds that they received from the government. I know that a lot of people are primed to find that believable, but everyone's just jumping to believe it with no actual evidence. And it's bizarre to see how quickly people have jumped to buy into this narrative. It's absurd how viral it's gotten, but I do kind of see this as a sort of a final flailing kick of the right wing's current cultural dominance before the downfall of Trump takes the rest of the right down with him. So I thought we'd go ahead and dive into the further developments of this nonsense BS story. Notably, the fact that some of these daycares that these popular right-wing influencers, including Donald Trump, have been accusing of engaging in fraud have responded. So I thought we'd go ahead and take a look at that. Here we've got a video from CBS Minnesota that says, "Daycare centers fire back in response to viral video." So let's take a look, shall we? Before we get into it though, leave a like and a comment down below. It really does help the video a ton and I appreciate it. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me. And join the fan Discord if you want to be a part of my community and you want to be there for fun community events like watch parties, movie nights, and gaming events. That all said though, let's get right into it, shall we?
There are major developments in Minnesota's fraud crisis, specifically related to child care. Here's the latest.
We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says it's freezing child care funds for Minnesota after a YouTuber claimed to uncover fraudulent centers in a viral video.
That is true. Donald Trump is freezing all the funds going to these daycare centers now because of this YouTuber's video, this dog shit video we covered yesterday. It was also proven, by the way, that he was showing up to all these daycare centers an hour before they opened. He showed up with a film crew, a random old guy who looks grumpy as fuck, and a guy in a full ski mask. He's showing up to these daycares an hour before they open, pretending to have a kid with him. Mind you, I need you to understand this. Any parent watching right now should be well aware of the fact that any daycare you would put your kid in would not allow a random man who shows up at the door asking to come in, saying he's got a kid he wants to enroll, and could you please let him in, while he's got no kid around with him. He's surrounded by a group of other dudes, and one of them is masked. Okay, no daycare you would ever put your kid in as a parent would allow this guy into their premises, because he says he's got a kid. Okay? I don't know. Daycares are open during the day, Zan? Duck Astley, are you trolling? Because these daycares are after-school daycares. It was literally determined. He specifically doesn't show the open and closed times on the signs on the buildings in the video. He deliberately hides them. But some fans of the streamer Destiny, who live in Minnesota, went and physically recorded themselves going to these locations and recorded themselves and got footage of their open-close signs. And because you can use the sunlight in the video to determine time of day, I think we all know winter in Minnesota, this cannot be after school hours. It gets dark around 3 to 4 p.m. Up north during the winter. Right now, it looks like 6 p.m. during the summer right now, and it's 2:52 outside. It's dark enough outside that the sun isn't out. It's just the sky's still lit up, but the sun's already kind of down, you know what I mean? Same would be the case in Minnesota as it is here in Washington, and it's bright as fuck outside. It's clearly broad daylight school is still in. Sure enough, when you compare the hours, these places were not even open. They were showing up, a group of men, no kids with them, saying, yeah, we've got kids, let us in. And they're showing up an hour before the daycare opens, like outside of operating hours. Of course they weren't welcomed. You know, it makes no sense for them to have been welcomed. Those extra 4 hours of employee payroll time costs a lot of money. Yeah, I don't believe these guys exposed anything. I was just saying. Well, yeah, I mean, there are daycares that specialize in taking care of, like, preschool kids before, like, while their kids are at work. That's true. Or while their parents are at work. That's true. But the majority of these daycares are after-school daycares that open, like, a little bit right after school ends, you know? And they're going here during school hours, on school days, wondering why there are no kids around. That was the blatant tell that this entire conspiracy is nonsense. Hey, Vault Hunter, thank you for the membership. You're a Tier 2 member now. Wow, welcome to the Purple Name Club. Thank you.
The state gets about $185 million in federal funds each year. The HHS deputy secretary says he's demanded Minnesota Governor Tim Walz audit those centers featured in the video. The governor responded on X, saying this is Trump's long game. We've spent years cracking down on fraudsters. It's a serious issue, but this has been his plan all along. He's politicizing the issue to defund programs that help Minnesotans.
We all know that's the case. Come on, some people here distrust the government and its bureaucracy so much they're inclined to kind of buy something like this on its face. But seriously, like, you simultaneously believe the government is inept enough to lose track of $1 billion, but also sophisticated enough to assassinate presidents, cover it up, and topple regimes and cover it up. Okay, like they're mostly incompetent, okay? Like, the cases where they have done impressive things, we've found out about it, all right? Like, I don't see a scenario where the government loses track of $1 billion in fraudulently embezzled taxpayer funds over the course of, like, a decade, with just absurd amounts of missing money. I don't know, man. I feel like the expectation that something like a conspiracy like this is even plausible speaks volumes about the kinds of mindsets that a lot of people have in America right now. Like, distrust in the government has reached the point where people are low-key deranged about the government. You know, like, I feel like you could convince a lot of people that, like, the US government had a demon chained up in a basement somewhere, and they were using its, like, magical powers to strengthen the country militarily. Like, I feel like people are prone to believe anything at this point, including the idea that it's done nothing while billions of, or over $1 billion in tax dollars has gone missing.
Some of the featured child care centers are firing back. This one says footage from their security camera proves kids were present when the YouTuber stopped by. Our Connor White went there to take a closer look.
Wait, there were kids present? Okay, so you've clearly got a parent dropping one kid off with their backpack. So I guess school, while they were there, school probably got out, or a parent took their kid out of school early. Like, the first parent showed up with their kid. That's really funny.
Were present when the YouTuber stopped by. Our Connor White went there to take a closer look. All new at 10.
You want to make ready for kindergarten.
This is ABC Learning Center in Minneapolis.
They have to learn ABC and numbers.
Director Ahmed Hassan gave WCCO a tour after finding his daycare in the national spotlight.
All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center.
In a now viral video, right-wing YouTuber Nick Shirley claims nearly a dozen daycare centers in Minnesota are taking public funds but not providing a service. He says ABC Learning Center is one of them, knocking on the door in mid-December.
I would like to check a child in the daycare.
Hassan says his employee didn't respond because Shirley was in a group of about 8 people, and his staff were concerned about recent ICE activity.
Is this daycare committing fraud?
No.
I didn't even realize that. Their response to him was literally try later because they didn't open for another hour. Me, when I show up at my local vape shop an hour before they open, start hammering on the door and saying, "Let me in! I know you're doing something nefarious back there! Why won't you let me in? Why are you here? But the place isn't open! It's so suspicious!"
No, we're not committing fraud.
Hassan showed us security footage from the same day Shirley was here. According to the timestamps in the videos, this woman takes a young child into the center at around 9 a.m. that day, about 3 hours before Shirley arrives at the door closer to the street. Within the hour after Shirley leaves, a woman arrives at the other door with a stroller. A larger family heads inside a few hours later. Tuesday afternoon, WCCO found at least a dozen children at ABC Learning Center, which is licensed with the state. Records show Minnesota officials last visited the daycare in November, noting some corrected and ongoing.
There are government service workers that visit these places several times a year, by the way. Every one of these places that's registered with the state gets visited by a government worker that does a full checkup on the place multiple times a year. I think it's every 3 months. I'm pretty certain. This is true of restaurants as well. I think it's twice a year for restaurants with health inspections. The idea that they would be literal fronts, like, because what they're accusing these businesses of being are hollow shell fronts to claim that there's a daycare operating there. In reality, the owners of the business are just taking money from this government program and embezzling it, spending it on whatever, not using it for the purpose of supporting a daycare business. So if that was the case, then you would think government workers who come to inspect these places like 4 times a year would have figured out something was up, right?
Violations related to day-to-day operations, but no record of fraud.
What did I do? I'm just a typical human being who wants to live and do the right thing. I have kids to feed.
Umi Hassan, the daycare's current owner, believes these latest.
Well, it's the same thing as Alex Jones. It's the Alex Jones thing all over again. Alex Jones saw a massive opportunity to go viral and get a bunch of right-wing virtue signal clout by attacking the families of the victims of a school shooting, a mass shooting at a school. He attacked those families. He attacked the dead children, calling them crisis actors, calling it a hoax, and made it very much about claiming that, like no knowledge of, hey, what if I'm wrong? What if the allegations I'm leveling here are wrong? Because if they are, then I'm just attacking the parents of dead children and encouraging my fans to attack the parents of dead children. No consideration of that as even a slight possibility. Just finding a group and deciding to villainize them. And you'd think, like, God, but daycare workers? Really? They're villainizing daycare workers? They've chosen these people to single out and harass? And yeah, that's completely in character for them. Let's be very clear. Before daycare workers, it was, what was the group they were going after before it was the daycare workers? It just slipped my mind. But they do this all the time. They love to demonize doctors. They love to demonize, like, teachers. The more... Oh, yeah, and then, of course, the parents of the Sandy Hook children. They love demonizing the parents of school shooting victims, using them as a target. Remember, conservatism is a cruelty-based political group, right? So even the possibility that these folks are innocent doesn't even cross their mind. And if it does, it's like, well, who cares? They're not innocent. They dare to not be from America.
His fraud accusations are political. Both she and Hassan are Somali Americans.
We pay our taxes. We do whatever we can to be a law-abiding citizen. At the same time, when one Somali does something wrong, we all get collective punishment.
With Shirley's video now approaching 2.3 million views on YouTube alone, they say they are getting non-stop phone calls harassing them.
I was looking for a place for my granddaughter.
That was the
with
goal.
many of those calls attached to out-of-state phone numbers.
They normally say, knock, knock, we're gonna come. You're gonna arrest, something like that.
Dude. What happens if someone shows up to one of these places armed, psychotic, with like a boner for what they think is justice, man? Like I could genuinely see a political shakeup unlike anything ever seen before if this guy's video ends up inspiring someone to attack a daycare center. Like, this is some dangerous ground this guy is walking on. Let's be real. All these right-wing grifters know that there is a small proportion of their followers that are mentally ill enough and have the means to commit some pretty large-scale violence, and would do so if they're convinced enough that they could make a big impact by taking things into their own hands. The idea of, like, doxing specific daycare centers and accusing them of being fronts for criminal Somali immigrant activity, it's like, dude, if you're lying. Like, they know they're lying when they made that video. They also have to know that there is a percentage of people in their audience that might show up to one of those daycares and do something crazy. God forbid when there's children there. Like, how fucking insane would it be if that happened? And would YouTube do something about it? Because, like, the headlines would be, days after video from popular right-wing YouTuber, man arrives, commits violence, yada yada. Like, I could see there being some serious media and political pressure for YouTube to crack down on this kind of stuff, because this is really risky. Like, I get grifting for the bag, that's one thing, like, it's always kind of dangerous, but this is especially dangerous. Like, Alex Jones targeting the Sandy Hook family's level dangerous,
Hassan says they turned over attendance records to comply with the Department of Homeland Security request. They're now waiting to hear back. CBS News is reviewing records related to the same daycares. All but 2 have active licenses. And Aaron, while the active places have violations related to safety or staff training, there's no recorded evidence of fraud specifically.
Okay, interesting. Connor, thank you so much. Well, another facility highlighted in the YouTube video was Quality Learning Center. The people operating it would not speak with us, but we did talk to a mother dropping off her kids.
I take my kids here, 2 o'clock to 10. Yeah, there's a lot of kids inside.
We spoke with another woman who says she owns...
For those that don't know, they had a typo on their sign. It said Leering Center. Because whoever typed up the infographic, or not the infographic, the graphic for the sign that was then printed out. For those that don't know, you go to a canvas company, you send them a design that you either had made by a commissioned artist or one you made yourself, and you have the canvas printing place make a sort of this like canvas sort of stretchable material that then goes over the sign above the building. And someone made a mistake, a typo mistake when making the design. They then had shipped off to the canvas printing place. So now they're now they had a typo on their sign, but it looks like they fixed it, which is pretty cool. They did go and fix it.
Owns the building that houses the daycare. She says they've been operating there since 2017. New tonight, this child care facility says it's dealing with the fallout of fraud allegations. The Nokomis Daycare Center in Minneapolis says vandals did extensive damage there overnight. They believe divisive and hateful rhetoric.
Okay, so at this point, it's looking pretty much like it's going to happen. Like that scenario of like someone showing up and doing violence at one of these places while children are there seems low-key inevitable. Like, these places are already getting raided at night and vandalized, these daycares, by people who watch this video. He really needs to be deplatformed now. I mean, he won't be unless children end up getting shot by some psycho who writes a manifesto about how he did this to stop the fraud. Like, I don't know. holy shit, this is going to make every child be in dangerous situations. Well, they're Somali kids, so the most right-wing people won't care. But yeah, this is the danger of the right-wing grift. When it starts getting really desperate and really shameless, and these figures start getting really popular, and they can get away with anything, and they realize they can, then they start doing stuff like this. Alex Jones did it. Now this guy's doing it. Tyler Oliveira's doing it. Finding and targeting specific groups of children, families, little small communities that they can, like, directly put in the crosshairs of psychos online is the end game for a lot of people. Remember, the Christchurch shooter directly cited Candace Owens as his main inspiration before he did in his manifesto on the Christchurch shooting, before he committed it. He cited Candace Owens as the person who inspired him. She's still on YouTube. So even then, there's a good chance that the Nick Shirley guy wouldn't get banned, even if someone did shoot up a daycare and write a manifesto citing his video as their inspiration, because YouTube didn't do anything about Candace.
Toward the Somali community is to blame. We expect to learn some more details tomorrow. Federal agents are conducting a, quote, massive operation in Minneapolis right now. The Department of Homeland Security has posted these videos of agents going door to door at suspected fraud sites. The daycare investigation represents a new front in Minnesota's fraud fight.
I love the implication that this smoke shop might be a fraud site. It's like, no, dog. No, I get they might be making a suspicious amount of money, but I have a local vape store, and you would be surprised at how often the shelves are fucking rinsed clean, bro. There must be no higher turnover rate in any industry than that of a vape store in a populated city. Like, I cannot believe how quickly those shelves empty.
Has posted these videos of agents going door to door at suspected fraud sites. The daycare investigation represents a new front in Minnesota's fraud fight. More than 50 people have been convicted so far in the $250 million COVID-era scheme involving Feeding Our Future. Prosecutors believe fraud in 14 state Medicaid service programs could total $9 billion. Updates to the fraud crisis are coming in fast, so be sure to stick with WCCO and CBS News Minnesota for...
And what's so frustrating is that there is fraud, but the fraud is very, like, there in a case where there's been, correct me if I'm wrong, like close to 100,000 recipients on this program. Something like 70 or 80 people have been investigated, well, I think like over hundreds have been investigated, but about 70 have been convicted. 70 to 80 have been convicted out of like tens of thousands of people that have participated in this program. So the idea that there's this widespread fraud happening is quite unfounded, right? For a variety of reasons. Everyone claiming that there's widespread... I'm sorry, I'm very much having to burp right now because all that Monster I drank. Everyone who's claiming that there's widespread fraud is a grifting liar. I don't know, man. I don't buy any of this narrative. It is insane to me they're managing to get away with their bullshit spinning right now, because that's what this is. This is pure bullshit. My bullshit alarms have been going off since the moment I saw this story show up on my timeline. The first people I saw sharing this story were the least honest Twitter posters and right-wing pundits on Twitter. Those are the people I first saw this story from, and I saw them all running different versions of this story all across Twitter to their different follower bases to see which version of this narrative would do best. And then once they found the version that had the most viral potential, all of them committed to that version of this narrative, this like alteration, and now they're all repeating it. And it's going absurdly viral. Seeing that happen in real time has allowed me to recognize and understand even more of how the online right operates. A big part of it is, well, as a YouTuber, I call it A/B testing, which is a feature where, like with thumbnails, you can add 2 thumbnails to your video, and YouTube will test both thumbnails to see which one gets the most clicks on your video, and then set the best one to be your thumbnail, the one that gets your video the most clicks per like viewed thumbnail or thumbnail view. It's a bit like that, but with narratives. You know, A/B testing narratives, finding the one that gets the most clicks and the most attention, and altering a point you want to make, or the way you get to that point based on what appeals to people the most. Because the truth doesn't matter to the right. You know, what matters is what version of the narrative they want to push gets the most views, convinces the most people, and makes individual right-wing grift pundits the most money. What's so dangerous about this is it always ends up targeting children, and not like children broadly. Like, obviously trans kids have been the target of the right for a while now, and it's disgusting, but it's also somewhat vague, right? Like, there are cases where the right targets a specific trans kid, but not all that often. You know, it's not super frequent. It's usually more of a broad, like, trans kids umbrella term hate. But in this case, it's very much targeting a specific group of people. Like, look at this daycare. This daycare is a front. And thus putting all, like, what, 60, 70 kids that go to that daycare, 6, 7, in danger of crazy internet weirdos. Who he's now doxed those children, mind you. Doxed their daycare. Like, it's dangerous stuff, guys. This dude is on some... He's walking a fine line right now. This is a very dangerous grift. Not for him, but for everybody who he's using to make a quick buck and get a little bit of clout. Sad to see so many people fall for this stuff. I'm surprised that so few people have much of a litmus test at all to, like, force this story to pass. Like, how... There must be no litmus test for most people, because if they even have one, this story is passing it for them at an alarming rate for way too many people. The normies have fallen for this story hook, line, and sinker, and we gotta find a way to combat that ASAP. Anyway, though, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, enjoyable, educational, etc., leave a like and a comment down below. It really does help a lot, and I appreciate it a ton. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me in the future, and be sure to join my fan Discord if you want to be a part of the core and hub of my fan base. Until next video, though, I'll see y'all around. Have a good one. Hope to see you again in the next one.